Welcome to NewPointe Online. My name is Haley, and I work for the campus support team here at NewPointe. We want you to know that this online service has been built with you in mind. So wherever, whenever, and however you're watching, welcome. We hope that something you see today really impacts you and inspires you to take a next step in your faith. We're so excited you're here. Let's get started.
When the road runs dead, you can see a way I don't. And it makes no sense, but you say that's what faith is for. When I see a flood, you see a promise. When I see a grave, you see a door. When I'm at my end, you see where the future starts. I don't know how you make a way, but I know you will. I don't know how you make a way, but I know you will. You've been good on every promise, from meeting desire and every dead end, and out of that grave. I don't know how you make a way, but I know you will. When the world's on fire, it's not like you don't have a plan. When the earth gives way on this rock, your church will stand. And nothing has ever once surprised you, and nothing has ever made you flinch. When it all shakes up, the gates of hell don't stand a chance. I don't know how you make a way, but I know you will. I don't know how you make a way, but I know you will. You've been good on every promise, from eating desire through every dead end, and out of that grave. I don't know how you make a way, but I know you will. You pulled my heart from Egypt. You carved a road through the sea. From all our chains to endless praise, the story ends in you. And when we cross that Jordan, look back at where we've been. From all our chains to endless praise, the story ends in you. I don't know how you make a way, but I know you will. I don't know how you make a way, but I know you will. You've been good on every promise, from needing desire through every dead end, and out of that grave. I don't know how you make a way, but I know you will. Yes, I know you will. Oh, yes, you will. You made a way when there seems to be no way. You paved the way in all of my brokenness, in all of my distress. I saw the Lord riding on a chariot of glory. Lord, you are good. Let's sing it. I don't know how you make a way, say, but I know you will. I don't know how you make a way, but I know you will. You've been good on every promise, from eating desire through every dead end, and out of that grave. I don't know how you make a way, but I know. One more time, just the voices we say. I don't know how you make a way, say, but I know you will. Oh, every voice in this place. Don't know how you make a way, but I know you will. You've been good on every promise, from eating desire through every dead end. And out of that grave, I don't know how you'll make a way, but I know you will.
I heard a quote one time, so what you do for yourself will die with you. What you do for others has an opportunity to live on perpetually. And I kind of adopted that as a philosophy that I've lived my life living for me. In January of 2017, I was diagnosed with cancer. LPH, lymphocyte predominant Hodgkin's lymphoma. I was told at that time that occurs about 4 or 5 times a year in the United States. Of the 90 plus different kinds of Hodgkin's and non-Hodgkin's, it's kind of got characteristics of both, which means that more treatment options, but more treatment failures too. So I went through chemotherapy for 5.5 months. And then in July, they told me that my cancer was in remission. But if it ever came back, I was a goner. They didn't use that word, but they said, if it ever comes back, it's guaranteed to be terminal and no cure. I lived a year without any cancer, had checkups every 3 months. And I went back January of 18, and they told me that my cancer was back. He said, I said, no, I'm telling you, tell your kids, pick out your funeral songs, it's going to happen. But we've got some treatments for you. And I said, no, you don't. I'm not going to have any treatments. He said, why? And I said, well, I've been a pharmacist for 44 years, and I know what your treatments are, and I choose not to have any. If God gives me 10 seconds or 10 years, I'll just go with that. During this period of time that I had the cancer, I was never anxious about it, and that was a spirit of calm and peace that only Christ could give. I mean, I was just a so-so Christian before. I was never on fire, never did a lot of this. I'd started volunteering with 8 Days of Hope, and I'd been on several trips with them, but I'd becoming more and more heart of serving, but it was more and more predominant. I would still say that cancer changed my life for the better. I became a better husband. My patience increased, my quiet times increased, my prayer time was better, my emotions were more pronounced. Cry at the drop of a hat. If I didn't cry in Sunday morning worship, something was wrong. So I lived that entire year under the umbrella of terminal cancer. I continued to serve with 8 Days of Hope. I went to New Bern, North Carolina with Hurricane Florence. Then I went to 2 or 3 weeks in Buffalo, New York, working with the warehouse up there. Panama City Beach with Hurricane Michael. 3 months at the Tupelo warehouse construction, Opelika, Alabama for the tornado. And then Omaha, Nebraska, and Ames, Iowa. All of those were in that period of time that the cancer was terminal, and I felt like it gave me an opportunity to talk to people, to demonstrate my priorities and what Jesus could do. So it gave me a platform that not many people have. February the 2nd of 2019, I went back and with the expectation that oncologists would tell me things are worse, this, that, and the other. But he said, Steve, your cancer's gone. His exact words, he said, I can't explain it. I don't know what happened, but it's not there. He showed me 5 scans. He said, cancer, 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 cancer in your esophagus, cancer under both arms, cancer in your spleen, which is an explosion. He said, and I'm convinced it was in your bones, but you were stage 4. He said, but there's nothing there. It's all gone. And I was so flabbergasted, I never mentioned Jesus to him. And that's part of my motivation, that I take every opportunity to brag on Jesus now. Not only did he take care of my cancer problem, but he took care of my sin problem too. My doctor told me the cancer was gone. My wife and I went outside and we were sitting in the truck, and she said, Steve, she said, God did not cure you for you, and that God did not cure you for me, as much as I love you most of the time. God cured you for others. And I took that, I believe that God cured me for others. It's an opportunity to go out and serve with 8 Days of Hope, make a difference one life at a time by serving those in need. I believe that God has given me free days, extra days, because I have chosen to honor him through my time and effort. A few months before my diagnosis, I had a dear friend that was diagnosed with ALS, a new believer. And his testimony, as the morning he was baptized on Easter Sunday, was that the pastor asked him, would you ask God if you could get one prayer answered, what it would be that God would take away your ALS? He said no. He said, my prayer would be that whatever God chooses for me would bring him the most glory. And I told my wife. If that ever happens to me, I hope I have enough spiritual maturity, enough guts to pray that prayer, that whatever the path forward is, that it will be the one that will bring the most honor to Christ. Several people asked me, said, why are you out here giving your time when you don't know how much time you've got left? And I said, that's just a greater reason for me to be out here. I don't know how much time I've got left. I want to make a difference in that period of time that I'm still breathing. If I'm out self-fulfilling or doing my bucket list or skydiving or riding a bull or whatever, I said, that's for me. I wanted to make a difference that would outlive me. And I've had an opportunity to lead people to Christ, to make a difference in some lives through 8 Days of Hope, and there is no greater joy.
Hey, NewPointe, Jonathan Wood here. I want to welcome all of you joining us today. Now, if you don't know who I am the campus pastor at the Worcester location here at NewPointe. It's just an honor to be here with you. Here at NewPointe, we are committed to being a church for anyone, for everyone. And maybe wherever you're watching from, you're at a spot where you feel like maybe you're too far gone or nobody can help you. I just want to let you know that we want to be a church for you. And it's okay to not be okay. God's got you right in the palm of his hand, and he's guiding you. And I just want to let you know we're committed to being a church for you. Now, I want to talk about a story that some of you are familiar with. In fact, if you've been following this series called Tell the World, you know that Dwight started this series with a story found in Luke 10 that Jesus was telling. It's now known as the Good Samaritan. But before I do, I wanted to share a verse that really is compelling to me. It's from one of the most famous messages ever preached, and that's the Sermon on the Mount. It's found in Matthew 5. Jesus starts this. He says, "You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden." He says, "Nor do people light a lamp and put a bowl over it. Instead, they put it in the center of the house, and it brings light to everyone in the house. And in the same way, let your light shine before others, and let them see your good deeds and praise your Father who is in heaven." Now, Jesus says two things here. This first one is who you are, your identity. You are the light of the world. So it doesn't matter. He doesn't say some of you are the light of the world. He says you are the light of the world. All right? So it's not just a calling, it's an identity, it's a purpose. All right? But the second thing he does is he says what you need to do with who you are. All right? That is position yourself in the place that can bring the most light to this world, to the surroundings around you. And so the story of the Good Samaritan really helps play this out, because somebody comes up to Jesus and is saying, "Hey, I want to test you out here. What do I need to do to inherit eternal life?" Jesus says, "Well, what do you think you need to do?" And the guy, he responds, he goes, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, strength, and love your neighbor as yourself." And Jesus says, "Yep, that's good. You're correct. If you do that, you'll live." It's a little oversimplification there, but nonetheless, Jesus sees this man's heart and he knows what's coming. The man wants to justify himself, so he says, "Who's my neighbor?" Jesus tells the story of a man going from Jerusalem down to Jericho. Already this is compelling for the people listening, because Jerusalem is representative of a place of blessing, a place of prosperity. Most of all, it's representative of where the presence of God is. All right, so Jerusalem represents, most people would say, let's go up to Jerusalem. But Jericho is the antithesis of this. Jericho was defeated by Israel when they crossed the Jordan and when they came in. And Joshua himself cursed the city, said, "Cursed be this city, and anyone who tries to rebuild it, it'll come at the cost of their firstborn." And that happened. And so these people immediately connect the dots. This man is on the wrong path. You ever know anyone like that? You ever felt like you were that person? You know, you're not walking down the right road. This road is really plagued with thieves, you know. And so sometimes we can be like, well, that person should have known better than to take that, kind of got what they deserved. But Jesus goes on and he says, by chance, a priest walks down the same road, and when he saw the man, he walked on the other side. It's important. I want you to remember that phrase, the other side, because proximity matters. All right. Remember what Jesus said, you're the light of the world, so position yourself in the center of the home to let your light shine. This man walks on the other side, and he walks past the need. It's right in front of him. Jesus says by chance for a reason, because the priest was like the perfect person to be the one to walk by. It's like, oh man, of all people, it's like an ambulance, so to speak. This person, why? Because the job of a priest was to represent God to the people and the people to God. He was the mediator. So of all the people that should have represented his heart, his character, should have been this priest. But he was on the other side of the road. And then it says a Levite came, did the same thing. Actually, the same job description. This is where this person finds himself. And Jesus doesn't really go into why, like why they didn't go, why they didn't go and meet the need. Maybe they were busy. Maybe they had a meeting to get to. Maybe there was a mentality somebody else would get to it. I see the need, but maybe I'll come back if it's not met by the time I'm coming back up. It doesn't matter. It's Jesus' story. The reality is that the people who were supposed to represent God chose to walk on the other side of the need, chose to walk on the other side of the road from where the need was. And I want you to hear me and hear my heart on that. God's calling us on a certain side of the road, and sometimes we get caught on the side of the road of complacency, comfort maybe. You know, we can find ourselves caught on the other side. And there are a few things that get us caught on that. The first is perspective, all right? Simply, we see what we want to see sometimes. Our life is geared around that. You ever tried to buy a car, and the car that you think is new and nobody else has another car like that, all of a sudden you see them everywhere, all right? That's forced perspective. We find ourselves as humans in that. And so if our perspective is off, we will not veer naturally toward the need. And the other is paranoia. So we got perspective, paranoia, and that paranoia is this fear. How much is this going to cost me? How much time is this going to take? Do I really have the margin for this? Did God really command me to do this? Somebody else? And when those two things combine, it impacts our proximity, and that's the last one. That's where are we? And that's really the question that we need to be asking. A lot of times we get wrapped up in the who are we, and we don't understand that the where are we is a very important question as well, because it determines how we live or let this light shine. There's a story in the Old Testament, and I'll share it briefly. It's found in Numbers 22. It's not exactly the book that's a page turner for folks, but in this story, you've got the Israelites who have been wandering through the desert for 40 years. They've been wandering because of unbelief. They originally were coming from Egypt. It should have been a very short journey, but they chose to believe that God couldn't do what he said he will do. And when they did that, God had them wander through the desert. So 40 years go by, and they find themselves now camped on the banks of the Jordan River. The promised land is right across the river. I want you to imagine this. This whole nation is ready to go into the promised land. Moses is ready to say goodbye to the nation. I mean, this is a big scene. But there are two tribes, the tribe of Manasseh, the tribe of Gad, that's a wonderful name, and half of the tribe of Manasseh come up to Moses and they say, hey, we want to go and fight. We want to go and help all of our brothers and sisters conquer the promised land and get this, but we kind of like this spot right here. I mean, this is really good for our cattle. This is good for our, and they start, Moses at first thinks that they're trying to get out of the fight. They promise to not come back until the fight is over. So at first Moses is upset, but then eventually Moses says, you know what? If you agree to go and fight, you can, this isn't the promised land. This isn't the land God promised. And if you could read into that, it's like, this isn't God's best. But if you want to be here, that's up to you. It's your prerogative. Just make sure that you fight with your brothers and sisters, or your brothers to conquer that land. And so they agree. Fast forward, okay, a few years, they return, they develop. Now, they find themselves kind of on the outside looking in. So what do? They build this altar that looks like the altar that's in Israel. It's on the other side of the river. And the reason they do this is they feel this disconnect, and they want the people and their generations that go on afterwards to know, hey, we still belong to this nation, even though we're on the other side of the river. And it's a mimic. It's not the real thing. It just looks like it. And so they kind of draw the ire of the rest of the nation, but then when they share their point, it's kind of brushed off. Now, here's the interesting thing. That's the last you really hear of these guys. Why? Because it was really soon that they were taken into captivity. They were unprotected. They were on the wrong side. That's important. So here they are living on the wrong side of the fullness of God's promise. And so instead of, saying, maybe we should go in and actually, they build a fake altar. And a lot of times, isn't that what we're tempted to do? Like, not to get in your living room a little too much, but I know that I can tend to do this where it's like, you know what, God, I know that you're calling me to do this, but maybe the appearance of it is enough, right? I'll put a good Christian bumper sticker on my car. I'll wear a good Christian T-shirt. I'll memorize these verses. I got all of the things that make me appear to look like I'm living that life on the other side, but in reality, it's easy to walk past the need, just like the man that's beaten on the side of the road. It doesn't come natural for me. And so maybe God is like leading us to a place of surrender where we're going, you know what? Like, I don't want to view this Christian life like through a window, like I'm seeing somebody else live it for me. I want to live on the other side. I want to live in God's promises. And this thing called missions, it's basically who we are as the church outside of the walls of our buildings. And I don't want to be just a spectator. I don't want to just hear the stories. I want to be a part of the story. I want to be the light that Jesus called me to be. So maybe you're in this place where you're going, I kind of feel that same stirring. I feel that same way, but maybe you're going, I just don't know where to begin. I want to encourage you, it starts simply by pausing and surrendering. I know that sounds simple, but it really is. You have to pause, because if you just keep moving, your perspective, paranoia, your proximity will take over, and the mundane and the rituals of life, man, they just take over. But if you pause for a second and you say, you know what, God, give me a new perspective. Because no matter how much we want to, we'll never see the need if we don't pause. I have people all the time say, hey, tell me what to do. Tell me where to go. Do I have to go on a mission trip? Do I have to? The reality is the minute you leave your front door, the need's right in front of you. It's everywhere. Okay? It's as local as it is global. You're the light of the world. God didn't create you just to hide. God created you to shine. He has a story that he wants to tell through you. So I want to encourage you, pause and say, God, I surrender my time. I surrender my perspective. I surrender my fears. And I surrender what I want to do and where I want to be. for you. And I always feel like it's in this mentality of saying, Lord, here I am. Here I am. All right, nothing's hidden. Send me. Where you have me to go, send me. You know what's most effective. Send me. So would you pray that today? Wherever you may be. And we've seen story after story of God doing amazing things without it being restricted to health, age, a geographical location. God can use your story. He wants to use your story. It's a matter of us just stopping and saying, God, here I am, send me. So would you pray that with me today? God, I thank you. I thank you that you didn't call us to live, God, a life that's just normal or a life that just appears to be good. But God, you've called us to an abundant life. Called us to follow you. And God, whether that's on land or on the water, give us the faith to believe that we can follow where you are. And I thank you, God, for every individual listening, every family, every husband, wife, child, God, that you've called and you've put this special, God, resource of light inside of their lives. God, to shine brightly your hope, your love, your covenant to us. And I thank you so much for it. And I just pray right now that in the midst of all that life is doing, all the storms that are surrounding them, that you would give them the ability to surrender and a calm of the storm, that they would be able to see, God, maybe even for the first time, a new perspective. I thank you. I give you glory and honor. It's in Jesus' name. Amen. Thanks, guys.
Thanks again for joining us today. We hope something you heard today has inspired you to follow Jesus, maybe for the very first time, or maybe to grow more in your relationship with him by taking a next step in your faith journey. If you've been around NewPointe much at all, you've probably noticed that next steps are a big deal around here. If you're ready to take your next step or would just like to learn more, visit newpointe.org/nextstep. And while you're there, check out our in-person and online options for Discover NewPointe. It's another great place to learn more about taking your next step. If you made a decision for Jesus today or just need to talk to someone, we'd love to hear about it and we want to be there for you. Feel free to reach out to us through a DM, a comment below, or by visiting our website at newpointe.org/contact us. We hope something from today has impacted and inspired you. If so, would you share it with a friend? This service in the ministry of NewPointe is only made possible thanks to the generosity of others. So if you'd like to partner with us in inspiring people to follow Jesus, visit newpointe.org/give or download our mobile app to give there. And if you already give, we want to say thank you. Your faithful giving is making an incredible impact. To see more content like this, please follow us on our social channels and like and subscribe to keep up to date with everything NewPointe. Once again, thanks for joining us today. We hope you have a great week and we can't wait to see you again next time.